This is MTG Burgeoning, and in this video we are going to update and upgrade our Esika God of the Tree Planeswalker EDH deck. Thank you for joining us for another installment of the Up and Up series. Today we've got 5 cards going in to update and upgrade our Esika God of the Tree, but more importantly, the Prismatic Bridge EDH deck. With 5 cards going in, we've got 5 cards coming out, and we're going to kick things off with Ripples of Potential. Here we have an instant for 1/1 blue mana. We get to proliferate, which means we choose any number of permanents and or players, then give each another counter of each kind already there. That is what proliferate does, so that means for all of our planeswalkers, they're each going to get an additional loyalty counter. Once we proliferate, then we choose any number of permanents we control that had a counter put on them this way, and those permanents phase out. Here we're looking to protect our planeswalkers from harm, and when a permanent is phased out, we treat it as though it does not exist until our next turn. So nothing can target them, nothing can happen to them. Our planeswalkers are kept out of harm's way. With the proliferating and phasing out potential of Ripples of Potential going in, coming out, whoops, I got that backwards. Little bit of foreshadowing, I suppose. With that going in, coming out is Semester's End. Note right away the savings of mana. Here with Semester's End, we're paying 3 and a white, and with Ripples of Potential, we're paying 1 and a blue mana. So we're already saving 50% of our mana for the same type of protection. Is it the same type? Well, we're about to find out. With Semester's End, we exile any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers we control, and at the beginning of the next end step, we return each of them to the battlefield under its owner's control. Each of them enters the battlefield with additional +1/+1 counter if it's a creature, or an additional loyalty counter if it's a planeswalker. Why is Ripples of Potential better than Semester's End, aside from the mana value savings? Well, we don't lose any plus loyalty counters on any of the planeswalkers we have, because when we exile them, they will return to the battlefield with their normal starting loyalty. Yes, that does bring loyalty up to some of the planeswalkers that may have less loyalty counters than when they first entered the battlefield, but here, with the phasing out, we get to proliferate 1 up, which is the same as putting an additional loyalty counter on it from Semester's End, and then we still get to have them saved until our next turn. With Semester's End, this is just a 1-turn protection. They come back at the beginning of the next end step, where with phasing, we have them phased out until the beginning of our next turn. We have prolonged protection and loyalty counter, I guess we could say maximization, which means that Ripples of Potential, with its mana value savings of 50%, is going in, and Semester's End is coming out. Card number 2, going in, it is Onaki Oathkeeper. Here we have a 0/4 Ogre Spirit for just 1 and 1 white mana, and creatures cannot attack planeswalkers we control unless their controller pays 1 for each creature they control that's attacking a planeswalker we control. So we're adding an additional tax here for our opponents that plan to attack our planeswalkers with their creatures. It's going to cost them 1 generic mana per creature to do so. We can also pay 4 and 2 white mana and exile the Onaki Oathkeeper from our graveyard, and then we can return target planeswalker card from our graveyard to the battlefield. So here what we're looking to do is to protect our planeswalkers more, in addition to recurring 1 of them from the graveyard. With Onaki Oathkeeper going in at a reduced cost of 1 and 1 white mana, it's going to replace Jiru with Eyes Open. Here we have a 4/3 human warrior with vigilance for 3 and 2 white mana, so here we are saving 60% of our mana investment, and we're still going to be able to get a planeswalker into play with 1 of its abilities. When Jiru dies, when Jiru ETBs, we were to search our library for a planeswalker card, reveal it, and put it into our hand. So here we're not even getting to directly put it onto the battlefield, it just comes to our hand. And if a source would deal damage to a planeswalker we control, Jiru would prevent 1 of that damage, but that doesn't really mean too much if a creature is attacking one of our planeswalkers and it's a 5/5. Preventing 1 damage still allows it to deal 4 damage to that planeswalker. With Onaki Oathkeeper, we're going to make sure that we tax our opponents for the malice they have in their hearts for attacking our planeswalkers in the first place. So the recursion of a planeswalker from the graveyard straight to the battlefield and the tax on our opponent's creatures is going to do more for us than Jiru's ETB trigger of putting a planeswalker from our library into our hand and preventing 1 damage that would be dealt to planeswalkers we control. That's what we're going for, plus a 60% savings on mana. All right, card number 3 going in. We have Broker's Ascendancy, a card that would have made it into the cut way at the beginning had it existed at the time of this deck's initial construction. We have an enchantment here for Bant colors, which is 1 green, 1 blue, and 1 white mana. At the beginning of our end step, we put a +1/+1 counter on each creature we control and a loyalty counter on each planeswalker we control. Very powerful card going into a planeswalker deck. Broker's Ascendancy is. With that card coming in, we're going to take out another enchantment, which is Bitter Blossom. Here with Bitter Blossom, we're paying 1 more mana with Broker's Ascendancy, but we're probably going to get a bigger bang for our mana investment than what Bitter Blossom can offer. Yes, at the beginning of each of our upkeeps, we do get to create a chump blocker, which would be a 1/1 black fairy rogue creature token with flying, which does allow us to better protect our planeswalkers by the ability to chump block. However, instead of being reactionary here, we're going to be a little more proactive by making sure that any creatures we have in play get +1/+1 counters put onto them at the end of each one of our turns through the Ascendancy, in addition to buffing the loyalty of all of our planeswalkers with 1 loyalty counter, again at the end of our upkeep. So with Broker's Ascendancy, we're getting more bang for our buck than Bitter Blossom is offering, because we get to buff any creatures we have in addition to buffing our planeswalkers. All right, we're 60% done with this video here. Card number 4 going in. Here we have Gatewatch Beacon. We have an artifact here for 2 and 1 white mana, and when it ETBs, it does so with 3 loyalty counters on it. We can turn this bad boy sideways for 1 white mana, and whenever a planeswalker enters the battlefield under our control, if Gatewatch Beacon has loyalty counters on it, we may move a loyalty counter from Gatewatch Beacon onto that planeswalker. So we can have any of our planeswalkers come into play. As long as we have some loyalty counters on the beacon, they can start with 1 additional loyalty counter when they come into play. Let's not overlook what we can do with this card, particularly with our ability to proliferate and put more loyalty counters onto Gatewatch Beacon, which allows us to get those planeswalker abilities ahead of curve. More loyalty counters, always a good thing when we're talking about activating our planeswalkers. With the Gatewatch Beacon going in, coming out is going to be Genesis Wave. All right, here we have a sorcerer. Everyone's familiar with this. It's X and triple green. We reveal the top X cards of our library. We put any number of permanent cards with converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield, and then put all cards revealed this way that weren't put onto the battlefield into our graveyard. That graveyard part is one of the selling points of bringing out Genesis Wave. We have 20 planeswalkers in this deck, which means that we have 79 other cards. And some of those cards that are going to hit the graveyard that are not permanents, well, there's some of the cards that would be very, very beneficial to have in our hand. Not that that's the only selling point for replacing Genesis Wave with Gatewatch Beacon. It's more along the lines of what can we do to help slim down some of the costs of the overall CMC. And with 3 green mana the starting, and we're not going to just pay 0 into X, of course, we're looking to get rid of Genesis Wave, and it's somewhat, I think it's safe to say it's somewhat randomization of what comes off the top of our library for what we know we're going to get out of the Gatewatch Beacon, and we get to accelerate our mana. That is a swap we're going to keep a closer eye on as the deck continues to evolve. The last card going in today, it is a Planeswalker. We got Chandra, Legacy of Fire. Here we have Chandra coming into play with 3 loyalty counters for 4 and a red mana. At the beginning of our end step, Chandra, Legacy of Fire, deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of planeswalkers we control. This can get out of hand very, very quickly. That is just a static ability. That's not even a plus or minus loyalty ability. Chandra's +1 ability adds a red mana to our mana pool for each planeswalker we control, and then we can zero Chandra to remove a loyalty counter from each of any number of permanents we control, and then we exile that many cards from the top of our library, and we may play them this turn. So Chandra synergizes with the planeswalkers we have in play by dealing direct damage to each of our opponents, gives us red mana that synergizes with the number of planeswalkers we control, and gives us card advantage. Chandra, Legacy of Fire, is going to do a lot of heavy lifting in this Planeswalker deck, and she's also replacing a version of herself, which is Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Chandra, Torch of Defiance comes in with 4 loyalty counters for 4 mana, so we're paying 1 additional mana for those extra abilities. To +1 her, we get to exile the top card of our library, and when we may cast it, if we don't, this Chandra would deal 2 damage to each opponent. +1 her, we can add 2 red mana, -3 her, deal 4 damage to target creature, and then her big bang is, whenever we cast a spell, the emblem would deal 5 damage to target creature or player. With a lot of cards dedicated to managing the battlefield from a creature standpoint, looking for some more static abilities like Chandra, Legacy of Fire dealing direct damage, we're still having the option of the mana value. We're still having the option of mana acceleration at a greater clip if we have more planeswalkers on our side of the battlefield, plus the card advantage that Legacy of Fire provides trumps anything that Torch of Defiance can do. Those are the reasons why Legacy of Fire is in, and the Torch of Defiance is out. Those are the choices here. We got 5 cards going in, 5 cards coming out. Let me know your thoughts about these choices in the comment section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, a channel for all things Magic.